better than Bookstacks, where we prove to our friends that they aren't as boring as they think they are. My name's Maria.
I'm Jack.
And today...
yeah, we have Ben with us.
Hello.
Woo, Ben.
Ben.
Benjamin, if you will.
Maria's going to tell us who you are.
Yeah.
Who am I?
So, Ben is... he's from East Texas. Right? Okay. He's from East Texas. He went to Tech. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And...
Texas Tech.
Right? Texas Tech. He went to Tech. I feel like everybody gets it, right?
There's a lot of Techs out there.
Are there?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, like Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech.
I'm pretty sure there's an Arkansas Tech, which is kind of
Wow.
crazy.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like university, college vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no,
I don't know how to
what I
explain it.
meant by that.
Okay,
though.
Maria,
Anyways.
who am I to you? That's what.
That's what
I
Okay,
wanna know.
Yeah.
Ben is my emo punk buddy.
Yeah.
He gives me all my emo punk recommendations, so that's fun. Ben is a deep thinker, and I feel like I have the best conversations with Ben.
Aw.
Yeah, you're welcome. Ben also has a lot of really good contributions to things. I feel like he always has something to say about it that brings value to things, not just like talking to talk, which I think sometimes is grounding for me because I be talking to talk. So,
Yeah.
Cool.
so yeah, I also think that Ben has a really cool way of making things very succinct.
I can.
Yeah, I think that you're really good at that.
Yeah. Sometimes I yap.
Sometimes you
Shame.
yap,
Go on
but you like
forever.
yapping. You're like like you know you're yapping.
Sure.
Like I don't know when I'm yapping. I just like go. But you don't. You're like intentional about like, all right, right now is yapping time. You know,
Yeah.
it's yapping time.
It's yapping time.
Sorry. Anyways, Ben is also a great friend,
Aw.
and yeah, it's true. I've seen you be friends with other people, and so far in our friendship, I think you're a great friend.
Cool.
Yeah, that's Ben.
Yeah.
That's Ben for you.
That's Ben.
I do have to correct a little bit.
Okay.
So I was born in East Texas,
Uh-huh.
but I grew up in West Texas.
Whoa.
The other side.
And the other side, out
How
in,
did that
out in the
work?
desert.
Other side of the Mississippi.
In the desert, other side of the Mississippi.
So,
Wait.
Is that how that works?
No.
It's like,
Yeah.
no, I don't think so.
But yeah, my dad was a football coach, a
That's
college
cool.
football coach, and so
Oh, that's cool.
pretty much all sports, especially collegiate, you move a lot. You know,
I did not realize that, but yeah.
yeah, because either you're trying to move up, or you have a bad season and you get fired, or whatever it is. And so yeah, we moved from East Texas to West Texas, which was a very big culture shock for people
Whoa.
who aren't from Texas. They probably don't realize that like within it, there's like 6 or 7 different like major cultural areas.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, West Texas is really where my heart is.
Aw.
So when I first moved to Dallas, I was like, y'all aren't Texans.
It's true.
Yeah.
How would you say that West Texas is different from East Texas and even Dallas? And does Dallas count as what would you say are the major? I don't remember how you phrased it.
Yeah, so I mean, you have a bunch of big metros: Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, El Paso, San Antonio, and all of those have their own like unique culture and vibe.
Yeah.
And then once you get out of the cities, depending on like the demographics, the ecology, the industry, all those things influence how the people behave in those areas, right? So one of the things about East Texas is it's way more lush and fertile and everything. So you can have, for every, say you're a farmer who owns cows, you only need 1 acre per cow. I don't know what it is. It's probably more than that. But out in West Texas, because it's more sparse, you need like 10 acres per head,
Interesting.
right?
Okay,
So
yeah.
you go out there and the ranches they're huge. There's hills, there's cactus everywhere. Everything is, the plants out there, they are, they've evolved to defend themselves. So they have thorns,
interesting,
right? Think of
yeah.
like a cactus,
Yeah.
right? Is just like out in the desert, it is a ball of moisture.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
if they didn't have their needles, then they would have been eaten by all the animals.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I feel like that kind of feeling can actually, the people can be like that a bit. They might be, they're hard on the
Interesting.
outside, but like once you are within that defensive range, like your family.
yeah. Aw,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
home.
yeah, it
That's
feels like
sweet.
home for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
Aw,
That's
that's
cool.
cool. And then you went, where's Lubbock?
Lubbock is up in the Panhandle.
Okay, so not the same.
It's very similar,
Okay.
but the Panhandle specifically is just, I mean, it's flat. It's windy,
Mm-hmm.
just grass and dirt. um,
Fair.
and most people, their first time out there, they're like, why would anyone live here? But it's, I mean, once you see your first sunset out there, you're like, I get it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So, and really, I did my freshman year was at Texas A&M because I was going to be. I grew up wanting to go into the Marine Corps,
Oh, okay.
and so I joined the Corps of Cadets at Texas A&M, and then being from Midland, which is an oil town, I thought
Wait,
the only
you're from Midland.
I did high school there.
Okay, so I said Midland earlier.
You did.
And you
You
said
said he was
no.
born.
I just
in
wasn't born
Midland.
there.
And he was like, no.
Okay, potato,
I've never,
tomato,
I've
potato,
never.
tomato.
The longest I've lived in one place, I think, is 6 years.
Okay, and that was Midland?
That was San Angelo.
Man, I don't know why I'm stuck on Midland. I've got to let it
It's
go.
easy to remember.
It's true.
So freshman year was at Texas A&M. Was Corps Cadets, and then being from an oil town, like every successful person I knew was like a petroleum engineer. And so I was like, oh, so I guess you got to do
Just
like
gotta
this
go that,
engineering
yeah.
thing.
Right.
And because I grew up with my ability to make money was very a goal that I should be aiming for.
Okay, yeah.
And so I was like, well, I guess I got to do engineering. Did my first year at Texas A&M, and I was like, I don't want to do the military anymore. And I don't like doing chemistry every night till like 2 in the morning. So
Fair,
I was
fair.
like, neither of these are going to work. And then I stumbled into transfer to Texas Tech. It was much closer to home. 2 of my buddies from high school were there. I love the culture at both of those schools. They're different, but depending on how you want to, I don't know, depending on how you want your experience to go, like they both worked for me.
Yeah. They're both very Texas. You
Yes.
know? Like, they're different, but they're still pretty.
Yeah, it's like the Texas pride is big at
Yeah.
both of those.
Yeah.
And then I got into accounting. Love it. To me, it's people think it's like, oh, you do math. I'm like, it's like
No,
plus
it's like-
minus.
Like problem solving.
It's
too.
problem
Like,
solving.
yeah.
It's to me, it's like doing jigsaw puzzles
Yeah.
for a living.
Yeah.
And the people I work with got into that, got into tax, master's program. Now I work at one of the big accounting firms, and the people I work with are great, and the projects are interesting, the clients are interesting. Like it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I forgot to mention that. I really skipped over a lot of things. Dang.
It's okay. Ben.
It's okay. Ben
you
and I
hit it
haven't
all.
been friends for that long, to be fair.
You haven't been friends for
Oh,
that?
oh.
Yeah, it's only, I don't even know if it's been half a year yet.
Not even.
Yeah.
I think I met you like 3 months ago.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think that we've even known each other that long.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today. Like, we
Uh-huh.
started this podcast, and Maria and I have known each other for probably just over 6 months now. So
That's funny.
that's fun, and like,
That's-
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Wait,
just
yeah.
a little fun fact.
Fun fact.
For the lore.
We don't really know each other.
Ben, thanks for giving us the quick overview of like
a better overview
where
of
you've
yourself.
been at.
Oh
where you
yeah,
are now.
it could be way longer. We didn't even get into like the bad stuff.
Yeah, so how we.
So fair.
So, okay, today you mentioned leadership as something you
Yeah.
wanted to talk about. And so, kind of coming off the brief overview of your backstory, would
Mhm.
love to know a little bit more about like how does leadership fit in with your backstory, and yeah, like how did it become something so important to you?
Yeah. I think it'd probably start with my parents. So dad was a coach,
Yeah.
and
So-
mom was a teacher, and then later got into administration at the high school level.
Okay. Yeah.
So I got to, growing up, I was watching both of them in leadership positions. And I didn't ever really think of myself as a leader until probably high school. So I did high school marching band, and my freshman year is when I moved from San Angelo to Midland. It was a really, really rough year for me, but so band was like the one thing where I was like, okay, this is where I'm gonna find people, and I eventually did. But I had a really good band director who, the first day I met him, and his name was Mr. Story.
That's a great name.
I know, but he was this little old man who he had diabetes, so he had like I think most of his foot removed
Oh wow.
because of medical complications, and so he was he rode in a scooter everywhere, and I walked in a couple days before summer band started, and shook his hand and said, "Hey, I'm Ben. I just moved in. Just wanted to come in and make sure like y'all know that I'm going to be coming on next Monday." And he was like, "Yeah, we have you on the list," and shook his hand, and he was like, "You're going to be one of my leaders." I was like,
Oh.
"What does that even mean?"
Yeah.
I was like, "You don't know me.
Yeah,
like
like, you
what
just
do
met
you?"
me. What do you-
And
what?
like for all I know, he said this to everyone.
But it doesn't matter because he sent it to you.
Yeah. To me, in the moment, like he was one of those people who when you were when you were with him, he made you feel like you were the only person in the room.
Oh
Right.
yeah. Uh-huh.
That's
And
cool. That's awesome.
he definitely had favorites.
Fair.
You know, so he wasn't without flaws, but he was a really great teacher, and more than just music.
Yeah.
And we had a position in the band called, it was very like military style, and so like all the officers had military ranks, and
Oh, that's
so
It's very Texas.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
true.
it was very, I mean, kind of like the A&M band,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like very
yeah.
military style. And everyone, so there was, you know, percussion lieutenant, woodwind lieutenant. There was obviously the drum majors. You had representatives, all these student positions to make the whole organization run, because it was a 6A high school band. Like
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
up to just the adults, the directors, to get things done, nothing's getting
It's-
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Too big.
And so at the top of that pyramid was the band captain. And day one of summer band come in, and he introduces the band captain, because all the freshmen are like, "Who's this guy?" And I remember I was standing in the back, and I was like, "I want to be, my senior year, I want to be that
To
guy."
the top, baby.
To the top. And
That's awesome.
yeah. And so going through high school, like you get older, and now you start mentoring younger students, and you are given more responsibilities and stuff like that. And noticed that I wasn't pretty good about motivating other people.
Yeah.
And a lot of things I do, I don't like to half-ass it, and like to try my best. And so for a lot of people, like I think it'd be fair to say I was kind of a role model.
Yeah.
And through band, you know, once I got to sophomore representative, and then percussion lieutenant, and then my senior year I was the band captain.
You made it to the top.
I made it.
Oh,
Nice.
that's
Let's go.
sweet.
Yeah,
That's
and
a little Texas band dream story.
I know, it's great.
Dang.
And it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. I definitely learned like different types of leadership. My senior year, I was a bit of a tyrant.
Yeah.
I mean, I treated it like there's different styles of leadership, and I treated it more like a drill sergeant. And that
Okay,
would,
yeah.
as band captain, that's not what you should be doing, right? That would be something that's reserved for sophomores or juniors
Right.
to be kind of I call him the bulldog,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you got your
Okay.
bulldog, or to kind of like scare people back in line, like the drill sergeant. It's like, but if you're the top executive, at least within the student organization, your goal is to be to kind of put on a show, and
Like make yourself somebody they want to follow.
yeah,
not just
you're
somebody who
trying to
scares
be
them to follow.
you're kind of trying to
Yeah.
be the
Interesting.
ideal,
Mm.
the visionary. Honestly, someone who's not real, like
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Make
Yeah.
yourself an idea, kind of like Batman.
yeah,
Kind of like you said, like the Batman leadership style.
Yeah.
That's funny.
so.
That's funny.
And
He said, "I'm
and,
Batman."
that's what people will do. They'll kind of idolize the person at the top, which I think it's natural. But if you are that person at the top, you should not let people do that.
Yeah.
You should show
Okay.
that
Right.
that you have flaws, that you do get tired.
Mm-hmm.
Like with my senior year, I would be there before practice started, setting up the field, and I'd be the last person off the field. And through all these years of like being in these positions, like we did seminars and coaching and leadership books and all these kind of, and like I took it seriously, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
the idea of the servant leader really resonated with me, because I didn't want to be the boss. I wanted
Yeah.
to be like the leader. I want to be, if
Yeah.
we're hauling something, I'm the person at the front of the line pulling as
Right.
hard as I can,
Yeah.
setting the pace. And so because of that, like put in a lot of time, really wrung myself out. So another thing I learned is that you have to delegate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that kind of, that really set me up for a lot of things, and an idea of like I really enjoyed that. I learned a lot. Mr. Story, our senior year, he went into hospice, and so we were down an adult, and that year we marched in the Rose Parade. It
Wow.
was a regional year. So every 2 years you go to regional, and through that you can go all the way up to state. And like this band, I don't know, back in the 70s or something like that. Maybe it was before that, maybe the 90s. They had gone to state, and so they were still holding on to this idea, this dream that we could do that.
Yeah.
Which now that I've seen how DFW Metroplex 6A bands do marching
Yeah.
band, like no way. There was no way we were ever going to get there.
It's okay. It's the hope.
But the dream is still
yeah,
alive.
yeah.
Yeah, and but there's a lot of pressure, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah, for real.
it's already a year with like a lot of pressure on it, and then our head band director, who's been there for like 40 years, his entire, I think,
Wow.
no, he was in Minings before, but most of his career was there.
Yeah. Wow.
So he's now in the hospital. Everyone's distraught.
And you're a captain.
I'm captain, and
Dang.
it was really a moment to like, if you don't step up, this is going to be catastrophic.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been one of those things where you lose half of the students by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't know how many people we lost, but it was kind of just the normal attrition rate.
Mm.
Yeah.
So there was one of the things Mr. Story hit, one of his sayings was push, pull, or get out of the way. Right. And like I said, he taught a lot of things that were not about,
Yeah. Like actual band.
yeah, actual band
Uh-huh.
stuff. It was
Yeah.
about like how to grow up. And that was one of the things, like my dad being a coach, like, yeah, he coached football, but we've talked about it before, and he's like, his real goal was not how many touchdowns could we score. It was how many boys can I turn into men. And so, yeah, it was
Like more about character development
Yeah.
almost than it is about
Yeah.
the actual thing.
Yeah, I
But,
mean, because
yeah.
what if the only reason we're here is to get awards or trophies or money or whatever? Like that's very boring,
It is, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, how
'Cause somebody's just gonna be naturally good at it and beat everybody out at some point,
Sure.
and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
or nothing, you know.
No, I mean, I think the thing we're really here for is to connect with other people and to serve them and be good people, and make the world better.
Yeah.
And so that's how I approach a lot of things now. That's how I approach my work. Right, like you want to deliver a good product to the client, but really what energizes me is connecting with team members and teaching them and leading, and people leaving at the end of the day going, man, this team's great.
Yeah, like I was a part of something. Yeah, and yeah. I think it's interesting, like, when I was in high school, I was in choir. I was like big choir nerd. Okay, like, and I feel like, especially extracurriculars, like I feel like sports are a lot more valued in that way. People like builds character, all this stuff. But I always felt like arts kind of added a level of creativity that helped almost like force character building in a way.
Yeah.
Because like there's a level of like you have to work through all parts of your brains, and not that you can't do that in sports, but there's just like kind of a given in that. Whereas like when you're more in sports, you're having to figure that out and learn how to navigate that, you know. But I always thought it was interesting because I was one of those kids that just took my job like way too seriously. Like I was always like, no, I have to get every single note right. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it was like
Yeah.
a big deal. And it was like me and my friend and everything. But it was similar, like we were always practicing. We were the first ones that showed up to everything, the last sleeve, everything. And I think about that now and I'm like, that shaped me so deeply in a way that I didn't even know was going to shape me. Because like it seems dumb to take something really seriously at the time, but I also kind of feel like some people just say that because they don't feel that passionately about it, or they're just kind of like trying to blow it off or whatever. But those people tend to really enjoy being a part of team and camaraderie and stuff like that too. But I did have a question for you. How much of visionary pieces do you feel like has played a role into your leadership style just as a person?
Can you expand?
Like, how would you say, because you mentioned like vision casting, and like when you get to a certain point, it's more about setting a course and painting a picture for people. Like, how would you say that integrates into your personal leadership style, whether that's a team that you're on or even just like your personal life?
Yeah, I think one of the things is you do need a bit of experience. You have
Specifically leadership or kind of life
no,
experience,
just
or-
experience in the space.
Okay,
Right.
so whatever
Got it.
industry
Yep.
type thing.
Yeah, whatever
Okay.
organization you're in, because you have to understand, you have to first figure out which direction are you currently headed.
That's so, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's good.
And then you have to understand, okay, so we're going this way. And then you have to see what are the hiccups with that. What are the obstacles in the way? And then you start to think, could we go faster? Is there a better way?
Yeah.
Is there, right? And so you have to have a bit of exposure. And one of the things I don't like about leadership is a lot of people think you have to like wait forever. That a lot of leadership roles are hidden behind age, And I don't think you really need to do that. Right?
Yeah.
And no, that's not to say like you can't just show up day one and be like, we're changing all this.
Yeah.
Like, there's a little bit of respect you got to earn. But, you know, we don't have to wait forever. And for people who, okay, so for example, another thing I love is history. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. When he wrote it, he was 26 years old.
That's wild.
I'm 28.
I'm 25.
Yeah.
24.
Yeah. You got
So
2 more
much
years,
life to
buddy.
live.
Yeah, 2
Right.
years right at
And
A
he
I
declaration.
only
was
got 2, so
Right,
use
he-
them wisely.
Yikes.
he wasn't the only one. A lot of the men that were in that
Yeah.
room were very young,
That's wild.
right?
I'm
And
thinking of like when you started talking about this, Alexander the Great popped in my mind. He was
He-
dead before
yeah.
30 and he had conquered half the world. It was
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
whoa.
Wild.
yeah. Now he inherited
Yes. he
a
did.
lot from
That's
his
true.
dad,
That's true.
but
You're like, well, let's acknowledge.
Yeah.
even with what he inherited, he could have lost it all within a year,
Yeah.
right? Especially, I mean, back, you know, when it comes to kings and stuff like that, you know, he's lucky that he even got the throne in the first place,
True.
Yeah.
right?
True.
So he demonstrated through true talent and capacity that he was the right guy.
Right.
Right?
Regardless
he,
of age.
He got all the experienced old generals to be like, yeah, I'll follow you.
That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Right. So I think that's something that people in our generation, or maybe even the generation above, stop waiting around. Like, stop waiting. Another thing about leadership is that it requires agency. If you see a problem, if you see something that needs to be done or that you don't like, like, go do something about it.
Right.
Yeah. And I feel like
Yeah.
acknowledge whenever you do something that wasn't helpful and change
Yes.
directions. You know, I feel like that's like, at least like when I was in youth ministry, I felt like all of the kids that I was with, they were always like, well, I want to do something, but I don't know what the right thing to do is. So, and I was always kind of like, you just got to keep trying.
Yeah.
You know, and like not doing
Go
anything
fail.
is always, yeah, it's like,
Go
you
fail.
just pivot. Like, you just have to change to whatever is helpful later, you know, instead of just being discouraged, and which is a lot easier said than done. But
Well, and yeah, and it's scary, and it's that's totally fair and understandable and everything. And the way to get over that fear is fail small,
yeah,
right? Choose
Yeah.
something small.
Like practice failure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
like rhythms. Well, I
You
had
know.
a professor that used to say rhythms of failure.
Okay.
And
Story
I
of
was
my
always
life.
like, I know, right? I was like, dang, it made me feel so much better about myself. I was like,
Yeah,
no, I'm
that's
just
cool.
creating a rhythm of failure. No.
Yeah.
You know, but just like finding ways, because that was kind of the idea of like failing forward. Is what he was hitting at. Of like, if you're strategic about how you're failing, then you'll only be able to figure out ways to move forward. Like, it's gonna tell you where to fail and how to like fail well. And because I thought that was really interesting. But
Yeah.
There's a couple things I want to come back to, but on the kind of thought path of failure as a leader, or like in the context of leadership, how should you handle failure?
great question. Great question.
Yeah. So you'll notice this with good leaders. When successes happen and someone goes and interviews them, you know, oh, wow, you know, you did such a good, yeah, the team killed it. You know, everyone
Right.
worked so hard, all that.
Yeah, like the we language.
The we
in
language.
success.
They will
Yeah.
they will take whatever praise is given to them and immediately deflect
Yeah.
to everyone else. Because I don't think the leader's really concerned about outside congratulation.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Interesting.
They're much more concerned with the team. How does the
Yeah.
team feel about
Yeah.
Yeah.
it? So praise from the team, they'll probably be more likely to accept. Outsiders, right. But on the flip side, something goes wrong. A good leader will be like, yeah, I didn't, you know, I failed, didn't see this thing, snuck up on me, wasn't in the right headspace, I was going in the wrong direction. They will take the blame. They'll fall
Right.
on their sword.
Right.
And so I think one of the things about failure, and the thing about that, I think a lot of people instinctually know that when a leader does that, they're probably covered. It's not really all their fault,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
the same as like when they deflect. Like, yeah, we know what you're doing,
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I don't know, that humility that you have to also. I mean, we're all human. And so if you're super arrogant and like think you have the only way forward,
Right.
you're going to fail, and you're going to fail bad. Right? And so I think as a good leader, they're willing to fail, and they're willing to fail often, and then use it as fuel for the next venture.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you personally, or how do you typically fail, and what would you change about that process for you? Like, AKA, are there any other ways that you get in your own way as a leader?
Oh, constantly. Yeah, I think something recently I've been needing to work on is delegating. I was pretty good about it in college, but lately I've been great at it. So I think one is reflecting on what your goal is, what your responsibilities are.
Yeah.
I think another that has been really helpful is having close people around you, especially within your teams, that will be real with you.
Okay, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes you fail and you don't even notice it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you fail and you put way too much pressure on yourself. And so a third party to give you something more objective is helpful.
Yeah.
And also, like, kind of pick you back up and dust you off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say, try again. Like, it's pretty useful.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like, okay, kind of pivoting. We mentioned problem solving earlier, and how a leader will have that agency to, okay, we need to go solve this problem. And then we're talking about, what do you do with failure? How do you interact with your team, with the people above you, below you, all that stuff. And then delegation. So, piggybacking off all those things, a leader will go from a problem to a solution to gathering the right people to implement that solution and all those things. When you see a problem, when you have an idea of what the solution could be, and when you are, sometimes you have the option to establish a team. Sometimes you're just, this is the team you're.
sometimes it's just you.
have. Sometimes it's just you.
Yeah, fair.
When you have a team behind you, what are the things outside of the overarching goal of, we are working to solve this problem? What are some of your other goals as a leader for your team, as you're moving towards that?
Yeah.
product?
That's a great question.
No, I really like
That
that.
was
Yeah.
long-winded. Sorry. But
No, I'm really glad you did that, because I was like, where are we going?
Yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like,
how to
oh, I get
land it,
it.
how to
No,
land
I
it,
get
but
it.
yeah.
I was following you. Okay.
Yeah.
Leadership. Leadership.
Leaders are also teachers.
Mm.
So, I mean, one of the things that a leader is doing is they're trying to expose and grow their team members to
Yeah.
things, right? Because I think one of your goals is going to be, hey, I'm not going to be here the next time this problem pops up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I might be too busy with something else, or just not notice it. So you really have to invest in those around you,
Yeah.
so that they're prepared to become leaders of their own,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, like passing off leadership in a way that's like, they gives them a safety net to be able to like fail and
Yeah.
learn, but also like gives them enough like fire under them to
Yeah.
grow and change. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, so one of the things about, so I said I wanted to go in the Marines, and I think pretty much all of the United States military is good about this. They push responsibility down as much as they can.
Yep.
Now, I've never been in the military, so someone who's actually been in the military would be like, "That's nonsense." I don't know. This is allegedly what
Like
they
this
say.
is what I've
Yeah.
seen. Yeah. I don't know anything about the military either, so
Okay.
I believe you.
So, this is what I was told, and for you to be able to do that, you have to be able to trust in the people below you, and so you have to really, on the front end of things, invest a lot of time into those people, skills, recognizing problems, all that kind of stuff, and when you do that, your organization will just operate at 10%
Yeah.
efficiency, right? Because especially when you're talking about the military going off to war, whatever, you've got bullets and explosions and stuff going off, and there's a 20-year-old who's in charge of 20 people,
Right.
Yeah.
and you're like, hey, you get to make a decision, right? Most people in the business world, you don't give 20-year-olds any responsibility, right?
Paperwork.
Yeah.
You give them paperwork.
Paperwork.
Copy paste, buddy. And so that's a wild disparity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of these things is not a life and death situation.
Right.
Right. So, I think what leaders should be doing is building up young people. It doesn't have to be young, but just maybe the people who are most new to the organization, to really give them the skills they need, building their confidence, encouraging them. I mean, the best thing to, like I said, I was a kid and I was in a leadership position. I was a tyrant. I was a bulldog. Now, I'm a cheerleader,
Yeah.
right?
180.
Like I'm
Bulldog's a cheerleader.
Yeah, exactly. Total
He
opposite.
said woo.
Yeah,
He said go
and
team.
I've realized that people, they're so much more capable
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
society and especially themselves give themselves credit for.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
And so I see a lot of my job now as making people realize that
Oh,
like
that's interesting. Yeah.
no, you are capable,
Yeah.
right?
Like empowering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that everybody is a leader or has the capabilities to be a leader?
Yes.
Okay, wow, that was so quick. As someone who's literally studied leadership, that is a very contended statement. So that was really quick. Explain.
Yeah, well, I think the reality is of what we call a leader is just who's willing to grow up and act like an adult. That's
Okay.
it.
That's all.
No, I mean, I'm gonna, so, right. I mean, if you just look at what leaders do, they often will hold a paternalistic or maternalistic role
Yeah.
for the people that are following them, right? This is kings and queens are the fathers and mothers of a nation, right? And so within your organization, I mean, even you want to start a family, you better be a leader,
Yeah.
Fair.
because if you're not, your kids are going to run wild
Right.
Yeah.
and they're going to be bad people.
And we've all met bad kids. Like, we know them.
Oh my gosh, I got so many. I've
meet
lost
kids and you're
count
like,
at this
"Man,
point.
ugh,
Um,
tough."
Yeah.
And
That's funny.
so this is everyone. Not only can everyone be a leader, everyone needs to be a leader,
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
right? And it's you don't have to be a leader everywhere, right? It might just be with your family, or just with your friends,
Or just
or
with
just
yourself.
at work. Yeah, Yeah, can
Yeah.
you lead yourself? That's
Yeah.
really the first question.
Yeah.
That's the growing up and like adulting, if you will. Like,
Yeah.
Can you lead yourself? But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, sorry.
Yeah. No,
Why are you apologizing?
and that's why I think it's
I don't know. I'm sorry.
that's why I think it's I think it's totally possible is you don't there's no special trick. There's no innate born talent. It's just
Yeah.
asking yourself the question, am I willing to do this?
Mm.
And then just doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like trying to think through like what are some of the qualities in like good leaders,
Mm-hmm.
which really is just to say like in good people a lot of times. And it's like I'm thinking of they communicate well, they're encouraging, they're competent, and like really they have a vision. If you have those things, you can accomplish so much as a leader.
Mhm.
Like it's
Mhm.
pretty simple.
It's so easy and also so hard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Simple, difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are like the fact they shouldn't even be leadership shouldn't even be a topic that is discussed as much as it is.
Okay.
Interesting.
It should
Why?
just
Okay,
be
yeah, explain.
so okay, so for example, in kind of how society's set up today, right? Your students, what do you do all day when you're in
Study?
grade school?
No.
You just
Study.
sit at school,
Sit at school,
in front of lectures.
someone's talking to you.
Take in
Yeah.
information.
They tell you
Consume.
what to do, when to do it,
Right.
how to
It's
do
all
it.
spelled out for you.
Everything's spelled out.
Mhm.
And so people get into this cycle where
Mm.
that's all they do.
Right.
As opposed to, it's 150 years ago, you're on your family's farm, right? Dad or mom showed you how to, hey, you got to milk the cows every morning. This is how you harvest. This is how you make sure
Right.
there's no rats and
Yeah.
the seed.
Mhm.
Like, and then once you're, I don't know, 12, they just expect you to do it,
Right.
Yeah.
right? And for you to go and notice things.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, that fence post fell
To
over.
be
I'm going to go fix that.
proactive.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so leaders are just, I think it's just people who are in the modern day, they're just proactive
Mm-hmm.
and they go, when they see a problem, they go solve it. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you see a shopping cart,
Drives
Out.
me nuts. That drives me nuts.
right?
Nothing I hate more in life.
Especially when
Okay.
it takes up a whole parking spot. You're like,
No, I just,
You're not
I'm
supposed to
like,
park
it's
there.
not that
Okay.
hard to walk it back.
So do
It's not that
you-
hard. It drives me nuts.
When you see that, do you go put it up?
Yes.
can I be honest? It depends on how
Don't-
far it
don't
is
say
from
it.
me.
Oh, that's fair.
Like if I see it and it's across the parking lot, I'm just gonna be like, that's a bummer,
Okay.
and I'll probably drive away.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
fair.
I'm just being honest.
That's so fair. Hey, you know what?
I don't-
For the people.
I do the
He's-
same thing.
He's a man of
Yeah.
the people.
But if it's like,
If it's like
Oh, you
close
just think-
enough,
if I'm like walking by it and I see
Yeah.
it and I'm just, okay, I'll just give me it.
right?
Nah, I'm that psycho girl that's with 3 carts, thinking I can push them all.
Wow.
Because I'm like, I can't just leave it out here.
Are you
And then I
like-
have to separate them out and push them separately, and it's a whole thing.
Do they pay you for that?
No, of course
They
not.
should.
Yeah.
No,
Go
I just
off.
can't stand it. I'm like, it's not that hard. I feel like it's not taking care of things. Like you used it. Somebody let you borrow
So-
their stuff, and you just said, "Nah,
Let me get
it's
this
not even
straight.
yours."
Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
You are seeing this problem, and you're taking ownership of it with no expectation of any kind of reward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's great.
that's awesome.
I don't know if
That's
I
Feels
awesome.
like
He
leading.
said great.
I don't know if
for you.
I would go all the way across the parking lot to do it, but
I mean,
good
if I
on
don't
you.
see it, then I won't do it.
Sure.
Because I don't see it. And to be fair, I'm not the most like
Observant? Is that what you?
I'm not spatially aware.
Mm.
I would say.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, yeah, I am the person that's making multiple. Yeah, I just cannot stand it. It drives me nuts. But
Okay.
little things like that get me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. They just get me, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and no, okay.
It feels disrespectful. I'm like, there's some because I also think there's another human that's going to have to go out all the way over there and get it when you could have solved a problem very quickly
Right.
and this
Yeah.
would have been very efficient.
Yeah.
But instead, you're just leaning on somebody else and making their life more difficult.
Yeah.
I don't get it. The same thing. Oh, littering? No, I'm
So
out.
th-
Out
this-
with that.
This reminds me of something I've been thinking about recently is
Okay.
like using to in order to like you said, it annoys you, right? And then you could just hold on to that annoyance and do nothing
Yeah.
with it, but you take it and you turn it into motion,
Yeah.
right, into action. And I really think that's something that good leaders specifically, or to, yeah, use your emotions to tell you how to lead.
Yeah. I think that's
Yeah.
a huge thing.
I mean, like there's been some stuff recently for me that, where I'm leading in my life right now started because I got angry about something. And
Yeah.
like, not good anger. And,
Yeah.
I could have sit there and sat on it or exploded on someone or whatever, but instead I took the energy, turned it into passion, and then used it to fuel action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think you and I talked about this, but there was a pastor, Cody McQueen, shout out. There was a sermon that he talked about taking anger and letting it move you to compassion. for people.
Yeah.
Like when something upsets you so much, there's something like in that
Yeah.
that matters. And it's almost kind of like figuring that out and then letting it move you in compassion towards the people around you. And that like helped frame so much of my perspective, especially just like within the church and like what that looks like of like when something is bothering me or when something doesn't look right or when something's like this isn't right, to instead of being like, oh, I'm so frustrated and just sitting and letting it fester, being like what could be an active change in this
Right.
area, what could, I don't know, and start thinking through that way. But that takes a lot of brain power. I feel like you got to think through solutions and you got to be ready and willing.
Well,
You
Sure.
know.
yeah, I think, and I'll speak for me, the trouble I've had in the past with anger have come a long way, but have a long way to go. But the trouble I've had in the past is that I get, like, anger is just an indication that something's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't take the time in that anger, or I wasn't taking the time in that anger to then say, okay, what's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And then get to a place of like, okay, this is the
Yeah.
problem. Now I can think, like, I can do something about this. It was just kind of like, I'm just mad that this is not going well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to stay there. Like, so what you're saying of like, you can sit in anger, but it's not going to,
Yeah.
it's just going to make you more angry.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So let it move you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good.
and I think, the problem is like specifically anger or any of the negative emotions,
Mhm.
even quite a few of the positive emotions.
Yeah.
People will tell you stop.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't show that.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Don't
Like,
don't
you're
do
too
that.
happy. Whoa,
Yeah,
that's
like,
weird.
He's like, yeah, you're
Stop
too
smiling.
joyful. Why are you
It's like-
jumping around? You know,
Why are you jumping
Why are you getting
around? Yeah.
inside voices?
Yeah.
And that's understandable. Because what people don't like is when it's people who can't control
Mhm.
their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm advocating for here is no. Feel it, know it, like savor it,
Mm.
even those bad ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
Let it linger
And
a
then-
little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then learn how to, once you understand what it's trying to tell you,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
now take it and form it,
Yeah, like do something.
transmute
really
it,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's the metaphor I thought of is if your raw emotions are like you're digging up ore out of the ground, right? And you just
Yeah.
have this rock. But inside, like, hey, there's iron in that rock,
Mm.
right? You put it in a blast furnace, you smelt it down, and then, cool, now I've got pure iron. And then I heat it up again, and then I take a hammer to it and I forge it and you end up with whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
You want it to be a weapon, you want it to be a piece of art,
Yeah.
like you want it to be just something, whatever you want it to be. Now it's your choice,
Yeah.
but you have to have the skills
Right.
Yeah,
and
to be
the
able to do that.
desire to do something with that rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was a theology podcast, and they were talking about pre-fall. What was it? I can't remember exactly what she called it, but it was essentially like the things that we weren't meant to not have resistance pre-fall. Like we think about it as like, oh well, everything was supposed to be blissful, and then sin entered the world, and now everything sucks, And there is a level of like, yeah, but her point was there are still things that we were supposed to be met with resistance in before the fall, and sin made it like impossible for us to do those, to have that healthy resistance. So it's like work was always supposed to be a thing, but when sin entered the world, it made work it made it in opposition of each other instead of the healthy like rub and resistance that leads to growth. And that's part of why the gospel, her argument is that's part of why the gospel is so necessary to all of life, because you are supposed to experience hard work, not in the way that we do now. It's supposed to be healthy and growth filled. And so it's interesting that, like, all that to say, I feel like that's part of it, is like part of being a leader, and what I personally believe being a Christian in the world is saying this is the way it's supposed to be. And hard work and difficulty and adversity in some semblance of it is good and healthy, and was not necessarily supposed to be this like not supposed to be like abhorred in any way, but you're supposed to like lean into that and forge something out of it, and that is a good and healthy thing. So I've been thinking a lot about what are the role of negative emotions in what I believe as a Christian, new heaven and new earth, and what the world is supposed to be. Because I've always been told, like, oh, wipe away every tear, it's all supposed to go away. And I'm like, I just can't do it, because Adam and Eve were given a task, and they were pushed to go, they were literally meant to be fruitful and multiply, and that meant going out, and doing something. And so it's made me think a lot about, like, it can't be that there aren't, and then Jesus being a person and experiencing a lot of things, and even like thinking that tears and the depth of the weight of death and the depth of all those things mattered. I'm like, there's got to be something to it. It may not be what we know, but I don't know. I like the iron analogy as far as thinking about it in the sense of like there is a process of molding, not just like a I don't know, like one and done. Like, well, if you dig a little harder, if you go a little deeper, then you'll find it. But it's like, no, this is like I get it to a point. I move it into something. I have to have a plan and a vision for something, and I bring it into something else. Like, that's really interesting.
What we all need is a person who can show us how to do the next step in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. There's been certain things where, like I had to just struggle through it on my own, or at least it felt that way. There probably was people along that were showing me how. I just didn't realize it. But it felt like some of these things, man. Can someone just tell me what to do?
Yeah.
Which is funny because
Right.
I'm saying, stop
like,
waiting
do
around.
Something. Yeah, you're like, stop waiting around. Do something.
But,
Tell me what to do.
If you can just have, having mentors, having people that you follow is just as important as being good to the people that follow you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's I don't know, I guess our world's changed so much, even since we were born, that everyone's playing catch up. I mean, like,
yeah, it's like so much information.
Like the leadership book, self-help, like those have been around for like 40 years, 50 years. I don't know. We've been writing books for a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
why is this a new thing? And so that's why I say it's really not that hard You just, but where we live today, it is hard.
Yeah. It's kind of like what you were saying, like simple but difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's something we learn in the Gospels a lot is, hey, this is all you got to do. It's also going to be so hard.
Yeah.
So hard.
It's like faith is simple but difficult.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And yeah, I mean on the emotions side, like all of our emotions, we were given them by God. And even we talked about the Lazarus resurrection this last Sunday for Easter, and that's where we see Jesus wept. And the entire time our pastor's going through it, I'm thinking of The Chosen.
Yeah.
And like watching that scene, and man, they killed it, because when Jesus weeps, like he's trying to teach his disciples something and they're just not getting it. And then he's seeing his best friend's dead, and his sisters are in front of him just wailing on the ground, and he wants it to stop, and he's like, they weren't right. He has this feeling of like, they weren't made. I didn't make them for this.
Yeah.
And this is not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And he just finally, like, he's just torn up, and he just falls to his knees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also in that scene with The Chosen, one of the things that is great is one, his disciples are like, what is happening? They are freaking out.
Right.
So it's very clear that like this doesn't happen very often. But in that scene, Jesus's mom, Mary, is with the other women, and she's there, and she immediately goes to her son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so even in that moment, Jesus, the King of Kings, has a leader in his life, his mom.
Yeah. For
And it's
real.
so they killed it with that scene. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Wow.
yeah.
It's so powerful that the example set by like arguably for just different contexts, but the greatest leader in human history, the perfect leader, period, that his example would be to not lead in some of those moments and to
To defer.
allow to defer
Ooh,
his
yeah.
To a
leadership.
woman.
To a woman no less, but just like that a perfect leader would still say the best thing I can do as a leader right now is collapse and let someone else lead. Not because I can't like keep it together, but because like this is what they need.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, just that concept of a leader deferring his leadership to the leadership of another is
Yeah.
such a, to become a follower for a moment. My dad has a saying. He was in the military, and I think this is where he picked it up. But he says a great leader has to be a great follower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it's just what an amazing picture of humility in leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah. for
Well,
real.
and it even imagine if that story hadn't happened, right? And Jesus, the entire, and also another one is when he goes through the market whipping people.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
any of, if Jesus was always in one tone
Right.
the entire
Yeah.
story.
Boring.
Well, yeah. No,
It's
it would
true.
have made the story not as interesting.
Yeah. It also wouldn't have made it real. Like it's so untouchable. It's like, yeah.
Exactly. If he would have seemed so untouchable, I don't think Christianity would have succeeded as far as it has. Because everyone, I think a lot of people would have been like, this is impossible.
Yeah.
Right? And so in that moment when he weeps, he is simultaneously allowing others to lead while still demonstrating leadership,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is right an idea like men don't cry,
Right.
Yeah. Dumb.
right? And
Yeah.
especially in that, I don't know everything about ancient Judea, how their culture was, but I imagine men crying in public outside of, I don't know, I guess at a funeral, probably. Well, I don't know. It depends on what their mourning is like.
Yeah. There's a mourning process that they typically
Yes.
do.
So in that moment, showing the 12 men standing behind him, this is okay. This is this is not only okay. This is the right thing.
It's right to grieve.
Yeah, this is what you're. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I think this is something. I know you didn't want to get into like a lot of the gender stuff, but
I told him not to bro up on me. I said, just don't bro up on me.
there's this weird balance where men. I understand why men are encouraged not to show emotion, right? If you're super angry, you're dangerous.
Right.
Fair.
If you are weeping,
You're weak.
you're weak.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like this, you're on this seesaw, this trapeze rope, and I totally understand it. But vulnerability, you have to learn how to do it. There is a way to do it, but if you are vulnerable, you get a lot. It strengthens bonds. It really does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do it perfectly, but I will say that I've become. There was a time in my life when I was like a little kid. I was very sensitive. I cried constantly, and it was annoying because, and I was discouraged from it because it was like you're just a puddle. You're useless.
I feel this.
You know.
I feel
That's
the
really
same way.
funny.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh my gosh, calm
Yeah.
down. You scraped your knee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point in high school and college where like I just shut all those emotions off.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, these are getting in the way.
Yeah.
Right.
And it actually really hurt a lot of my relationships.
Yeah.
It hurt my relationships with my family, with my friends, especially with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the past couple of years has been starting to open up all those little boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like now, I mean, dude, I get upset over all kinds of stuff, and I love it. I
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah.
Because to me, I can't remember who said it. I don't remember, but crying tells you what you care about,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever the feeling, whenever you get emotional or upset
Yeah.
about stuff, like it tells you you're alive. It tells you that you care.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
people really, really respect that. I've had, I lead our 11th grade boys Bible study, and I've cried in front of those guys,
Yeah.
and every single time they're like, "What is going on?" And I've seen them cry.
Yeah.
Usually it's very, when we're really in some deep worship, and the lights are down, and everyone's
Right.
spread out, and they are like hiding away,
Yeah.
Right.
and then I go find them.
And then I knew.
You're like, I see you.
And I've, every single time we go through one of those experiences, because there's been quite a few now, where I show emotion and they show emotion, like we get closer,
Yeah.
and the amount of things that we could talk about get deeper,
Yeah.
and it gets more real, and it gets more impactful. And like, I think within the group, that's totally fine. I still think, unfortunately, they are in a position in life where, I'm sorry, bud, you're not in the place yet where they know, where one, they know how to show their emotions correctly, and where the people around them will accept them.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
something where A lot of women, I think, really want to see emotion from men. And then if men show it, they don't like it. And I don't think it's that they don't like it. I think it's that the men, both of them came at it. Both of them weren't ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it takes maturity on both ends.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like I'm always the kind of person that leans more towards, like, I think that there are definitely differences in gender for sure, but I just think that we're more alike than different as far as, like, humanity and thinking about who people are. And I think that there's this very similar pool, and I won't speak for all women. I guess I won't be the spokesperson for all women. But at least for me, there's a very similar pool of, like, there are certain emotions that you were supposed to feel, and then there are other emotions that you aren't supposed to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that there is, I don't know much necessarily about, like, for men's side, but there are actual hormones and things that are happening within a woman's body all the time.
Yeah, sure.
That that are forcing you to feel in some ways. And so it's interesting to think about, like, I think that there's a very similar push and pull and tug within men and women, but they're just carried out in completely different ways.
Yeah.
Because it's like one of them is, like, at least from my experience as a woman, like, when I'm growing up and I'm sharing emotion, it feels involuntary. Like, you're a teenager and you're just like, there's just, like, something in you that's pushing something out of you in a sense of, like, you are going to feel this way. You're going to experience this. Whereas, like, that's not necessarily the push or pull or in the same way for men, you know. But it is just interesting to think about, like, there are very similar tugs that we can relate on in a lot of ways. And very similar, like, character building things that we can, like, sharpen each other with. And I really believe that that's, like, a lot of God's design and why he's put us in community, not just that in the sense of, like, not like man and woman, husband, wife, but like brother, sister, learning and being alongside of each other. Like, there's a family unit that consists of brothers and sisters, and there's a huge need for both, you know. So it's interesting to think about kind of what that looks like, even in the context of leadership, of, like, you need both of those things. I always talk about that in even just, like, in how we carry out spaces of, like, if there's usually not a team of just men or a team of just women.
Yeah.
And ideally you don't have just that. So you need leaders of both in order to be successful and to be, like, to accomplish goals and create connection within your team too, you know?
Yeah, something I was going to kind of off that was thinking about earlier in this conversation was just that, like, everybody has the capacity and the capability to be a leader, to be a mature, just individual. But if you look around, if you're not one, or maybe don't feel like you are a leader or could be, if you look around, there are people leading everywhere. It's like incredible, and you're probably leading in some form or fashion and you don't know it. And I think one of the things that I've seen kind of on this topic of emotions too is that somebody who's leading, it's not that they're not feeling their emotions. It's not like they have a control switch where they're flipping it on and off, or like they feel it too much so they flip it off. It's they have a self-control when they feel their emotions. Like, they know what to do with it. Or even if they don't, they're not going to go full out rage monster. Maybe they're angry and raise their voice and then, you know, get control of it. It's like, okay, I see that you're upset. But it's a pretty incredible thing that across genders, across societies, across like roles and positions in organizations, like, communicating emotion, you're able to communicate and connect in a way that, like, really does further, you know, not just relationship, but, like, your mission. And it's, I don't know, just the gender divide of emotion, I think is interesting, of, like, it really just is different in how it plays out more than what you're feeling and how it sparks, or yeah, like what gets you feeling that way.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty
Mhm.
similar. It's just how do you think about
Yeah.
this is how I should, you know.
Yeah, anger is anger.
Yeah.
That's going to be the
Mhm.
same between the two.
Right.
Yeah.
How it's going to play out physiologically, psychologically,
Mhm.
physically. I think those things are going to be different.
Yeah. Yeah.
On averages, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So and yeah, Marina, I think you're right. Like for the most things, men and women I think are very similar. It's the things that make us different that make us notice differences that
Yeah.
we are
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
For
yeah.
sure.
Uh-huh.
For sure.
Mhm. I think that's heightened by the fall too, personally.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think that
Well, division is
yeah,
heightened by the
it's
fall.
like-
Yeah.
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 So there's just a more natural instinct from us post fall to see differences, and to like be resistant towards that, versus
Mhm.
coming together. And I also think that's part of our lives as Christians is to be like, no, like we live in a very like hyper sexualized world now, and that's not any different from the early church. And part of our job is saying, I'm going to do the hard work of learning how to not see my brothers and sisters that way, and
Mhm.
to like enter into situations that are uncharted territory for the people around me and for me,
Mm.
and to say like, I'm gonna see this person as my brother and my sister, and fight for that, and not do things that are like, okay, I'm going to put down the other person, and I'm gonna resist the temptation to see only differences, but
Mhm.
see more similarities and humanness in the people around me, both genders, everything. So I think that's a really beautiful picture of the gospel that is a little bit untapped in our world right now. As far like I feel like we kind of go one of the other extremes. It's either like, oh, we're so different, the world tells us there's like 52 genders, so we got to tell them there's two, and all this stuff, and you're like, okay, chill.
Yeah, so here's one of the things on I think how in terms of leadership things might be approached differently. I think in the Old Testament, the two best stories of leadership, maybe not the best, but at least my two favorite,
Okay.
Moses and Esther.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
So
interesting.
both of them
Wait.
both of them have to save the Jewish people,
Yeah.
right? Moses he used to live in the court of the Pharaoh, and then now he's like
Yeah.
off and wherever, in the desert, far away from Egypt. And then God's like, hey, you got to go back there, and you got to go talk to Pharaoh and tell this dude, not the same Pharaoh
Right.
who adopted you, not the one you grew up with. This guy doesn't know you from Adam, right? And you got to go in there and be like, hey, Pharaoh, guy who says he's God on earth, my God says you have to let all of my people
My
free.
dad told me that. Oh, your dad?
Yeah. My dad's stronger than your dad.
My mom said that if you drop us off, then then she can pick us up.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's got to go in there, and I think this another something that I've been looking into is psychology, and I love Carl Jung and his work on archetypes, and he also has something in regards to like the masculine and feminine energies. He calls it the animus and the anima.
Interesting.
I don't know if
Okay.
we'll have time for that.
No, yeah, we can't get into that. But maybe
We'll circle back.
next episode.
Okay. And right, so in archetypes, like there's the archetype of in the Moses story about me, the male leader,
Right.
right? Or let's just say the leader. Okay, so there's the light side, like the actualized enlightened side. So that's
Yeah.
like the leader. It's usually like a pyramid. And then at the bottom you have the shadow side, and there's an active and a passive pole, right? So in the story of Moses, Moses is the leader. He's at the top, right?
Yep.
He's divinely inspired. He, yeah, I mean, he's got God's will behind him basically, and he goes and does all the things God tells him, which are like very hard things to do.
Yeah.
He has to stand up to Pharaoh time and time again,
Yeah. Right.
and the Jewish people time and time again.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're like, "What are you doing? We got it good here, bro."
Right.
And
He's
he's
like,
like,
save us. Actually, don't.
and he's like, "No, you're slaves. You don't have it good here,
Right.
and what the land we were promised, we are not in.
Yeah.
The story has not been finished."
Right.
And so the Jewish people are existing in the passive shadow role, which they're slaves, right?
Yeah.
They have no control. And then on the other side is the tyrant, is Pharaoh, right? He has all the power, but he's abusing people, right? And so Moses goes in there time and time again. You will let my people go, let my people go. Here's another plague, here's another one, here's that. Finally, Pharaoh's like, all right, I'm done. And he lets him go. And then, that's not really the end of the story. But
Yeah.
Esther is in a very similar situation.
Yeah.
Right? So now the Jewish people they've been taken to Babylon. They are in bondage again. And Esther is the most beautiful woman in the land. And so she is taken into the emperor's harem. Right? I think she becomes his first wife.
Yeah.
Because
She becomes the queen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay.
No power
Which
associated with that,
which is
but-
like the king. She couldn't go see the king unless
Yes.
Yeah,
the
it's
king
no-
allowed.
yeah,
her.
there's no
Yes.
power
You can't just
associated.
go
Yeah.
see the king.
Right.
Like if you just burst
Yeah,
in
yeah,
on him,
yeah.
they kill you.
Well, if he extends the scepter, you're safe. If he doesn't extend the scepter, I just read it.
Okay.
If he doesn't extend the scepter, she would be killed.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Esther finds out this plot by what was another guy's Hammon?
It's her
Oh
uncle.
my gosh, it's close. It's not that, but it's
Mordecai
close.
and him.
Mordecai-
Haman, Yep.
That's why
It
I
is
said
Maria
Hammon?
got it.
That's-
Yep.
Okay, so
Went to seminary.
Mordecai is her uncle.
Speak up. Speak up.
And
I
Morde-
did.
People
I
in the
said
back.
it. Y'all just kept going.
It's Mordecai, right?
Yeah.
Mordecai's the other guy.
It's her
Yeah,
uncle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mordecai's out in the
Right?
he's out in the
Yes,
town.
yes.
Okay,
He hears
I'm
about this
like-
plot because he's like an elder in the
Gaslighting
community.
myself now.
Right.
And so he goes to Esther and he's like, "You have to go talk
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the
yeah.
king
Yeah.
and be like, don't kill my people.
Right.
I'm Jewish. If you
Yeah.
go through this guy's, Hammon is like, we're gonna kill all the Jews. Is it even explained why he wants to do it?
Yeah, it was actually because Mordecai didn't bow to him
they
or
got
respect
it.
him at
Yeah.
the gate. He had beef with Mordecai, and he was like,
Jeez.
"I'm
He's
gonna
like, "I'm gonna
kill
take out all your
all of his
So
people."
this
people."
one guy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
Well,
wow.
I mean, I'm sure it was a collective thing, though, in a sense, because they're not going to bow to anybody.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not supposed to, at least. And
Right.
Mordecai may have been the guy, but he's upset with the idea that you won't bow down to
Okay.
something other than God.
Okay.
So
Okay, so yeah, if she's he's like, you got to go to the king and be like, you can't go through with Hammon's plan because if you do, I have to die. I'm Jewish.
Right.
well, and she will too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but she's like, no. Are you crazy? Right? She's living in the palace. She's got it
Right.
made. Right? Life's
Well,
great.
not really. There's a
She
power
doesn't-
dynamic of most likely it would.
Maria,
No, I'm telling you.
everyone else is out in the fields.
I know. I'm telling you right now. No offense. I would agree in this, but this is more likely a situation that's trafficked.
Sure.
She may have needs that
yeah.
are met, but there is also.
Yeah, she's not
transactional
she's
things.
not
It's
there
not a great-
voluntarily.
all that to say, it's not a great situation. I mean, it's
she's
better. I
She's
guess.
not in the palace fighting for her life day in day out just to put
Mm.
food on the table.
Yeah.
No,
she-
but
she's not there
is-
voluntarily,
She is.
but-
She didn't get to go there
Mm-hmm.
voluntarily, but she's well fed. She sleeps in silk. She doesn't have to go outside.
Right.
She is the queen.
Yeah, she's just
Her relative to basically every
just
other
ripped of her
young
humanity.
woman.
But
Yes, but
Whatever.
relative to every other young woman in the kingdom, she's got it pretty good.
I just feel like we gotta acknowledge that part, but that's
Yes,
I
I'm
mean,
not. I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not disagreeing
Yeah.
with you.
I mean, yeah.
It was pretty. Unless you are the king in most of these old, basically any other time,
Mm-hmm.
it's someone's got power over you. Something is wrong. It's not great.
Yeah.
Okay, and even a lot of times these kings, like, it's not great either.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Whatever, they have to do all this stuff. Whatever. Anyways, that, life's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, she's like, if I'm remembering correctly, she's like, no way am I going to do that. He's going to kill me.
Yeah.
Right. And then probably in her head, she wouldn't have gotten a book written after her if she did this. She could have just looked the other way. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that would have been her acting in the shadow passive side of
Yeah.
the harem concubine
Right.
who I'm just going to exist in the palace and I'm not going to do anything out of place.
Mhm.
When he
Mhm.
wants me, he can use me, and I'll just say, hey, everything's fine. And then the other side of this is she doesn't exhibit it, but one of the things she could have done was she could have been a seductress. Used
Right.
her position
Yeah.
in the harem, used the power of
Yeah.
sex in order to manipulate the king.
Mhm.
But she doesn't do that. What she does
Yeah.
instead is she throws this beautiful banquet. She invites the king, does all the procedure, does it right, and then she uses her intelligence and her words and their relationship to show what is happening and show the truth
Right.
and do the hard thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think behaves in a beautiful, queenly manner,
Right.
and she saves her people.
Yeah.
Right. And so both of those, Moses and Esther, behave at the top of
Mhm.
leadership
Yeah. 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 Like display
But
those kinds of qualities. And
within showing how it might be done between the male and the female energy, I would say.
Yeah. That's
stuff. I
super
would still
interesting.
push back and say I don't think it's necessarily male and female energy. I think it's. I mean, there might be. I won't deny that that's the thing, but I do think that there's a level of just different types of leadership in different situations.
Sure.
Because I do think
Yeah.
that that's very different to be like, I am from outside now coming in, and how do I go about this? I have something to do with this situation. I kind of know how things are, but I am kind of outside. And being like, I am in a system currently, and I'm having to react in a certain way that allows for things to come about. I think that those are just different scenarios and things, but I see
Yeah,
what you're
well, I
saying
mean,
as far as like there could
Multiple
be some,
things can be true at one time.
yeah, like there could be some of those energies in there too, but I don't necessarily. I just think that those situations are very, very different situations. So
Mhm.
it's kind of hard to say for sure and definitively that it has to do with gender.
Yeah,
But,
well, I
you
mean,
know.
I don't think there's probably not most of these stories, if you're like, this is the story, this is the
Yeah.
way to look at it. It's like, probably not.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like the way that I
Yeah.
just told that story, I think is correct. Also, if any other person gave another look at that story and like pointed out a different perspective or whatever, I think they're just as validly correct if they tell a good
Yeah.
story.
Only if it's good though.
But
If it's bad,
right? I mean,
no.
that's what's so great about the Bible and all these old stories that we still have. I mean, not even just the Bible, Shakespeare, all this stuff is they keep existing over time because they hold truth, but also you can see them through multiple different lenses,
Yeah.
and they're still applicable today.
I think
Yeah.
that has a lot to do with storytelling and how the Lord's hardwired us to be, to learn and to be storytellers.
Yeah.
And like learn in the way of stories because
Yeah.
there are principles and things that carry through a story that
Yeah.
hold true even when details are a little bit different.
Right.
So, and I do think that details and getting everything right is very Western American thought. It's like enlightenment type thing of like everything needs to be correct and everything, and that's something that in my reading of the Old Testament, it's been really interesting to think about. Like, this is not how Jewish thought is. It's not this American westernized, like everything needs to be perfect. And there are things and details that are aligned, but that's not the focus of things either. So it's always been interesting to like read the text in that way and recognize the kind of lenses you're coming in with too, of being like, oh, I'm expecting all of these numbers to exactly add up when it might have been something totally different. Like the point of this thing might have been something totally different, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I always think it's really interesting that the Lord chose stories. Like I don't know why that is, but it connects with everybody,
Yeah.
I think they're-
you know?
it's easier to remember.
True.
Yeah, that's fair.
True. That's kind of pivoting back to leadership, like storytelling. Leaders have to be good storytellers, good vision casters,
That's so interesting.
in a way
Yeah.
that is like memorable and whether like emotion evoking and like the way you have buy-in is not, you know, these are the facts and based on these facts this is what needs to happen. Like, okay, cool. But if you say this is an experience I had, these are the facts, this is an experience I want to have with all of you, like there's a story that I can get in on, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you got to motivate people.
right.
Yeah. That's
Right.
interesting.
Which I think, and what an incredible way, like thinking of the Bible, what an incredible way of God to motivate his people through a story where it's not just, hey, you know, here's our quarterly statement, here's, you know, how we did over the last 250 years as a people, and you know, it's not looking too good at the end of this
not
quarter.
looking-
I'd like to
Q2's
clarify that the
no-go.
quarter is 1,000 years for some. I just decided that just now. But it's
Yeah.
like instead of like quarterly statements of like, well, at the end of this period, the kingdom of Israel had fallen to, you know, this empire, and they had this many people to their name, and they had this much wealth,
Yeah.
and they weren't doing what God said. And then the next quarter, they did do what God said, and David showed up, and you know, whatever.
Yeah. Very
Instead,
boring.
Yeah.
yeah, very boring. Instead, it says, you know, God is involved with his people. He's talking with their
Yeah.
leaders. He's weeping with them. Like,
Mhm.
what? Like, you mean this leader of his people is compassionate and he's close and connected, and he's, like,
Yeah.
got a vision for them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's kind of wild.
It's wild.
Yeah,
That's
no,
really
I mean
wild.
that's one of the things so being an accountant, one of the things I realized is that accounting and just in general like economics is just the quantification of stories.
Mm, yeah.
Oh, that is so interesting.
Yeah, like data as just like,
Yeah.
it's just tells a
Yeah, I mean if
story.
you want to like
I
oh
never thought about
this
that
is
way.
the American economy, and it's like you mean the quantification of humans.
Right.
The human,
Yeah, that's
not
wild.
just the quantification of humans, right? That sounds like really gross, but it's like, no.
That sounds gross.
This is the quantification of human wants, desires, and needs.
Yeah, right.
That is so interesting. Yeah. Uh-huh.
No.
Yeah.
And so I mean you can take stuff like that and flesh it out
Yeah.
and make it something really interesting,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And in history, like the majority of like in terms of documents that historians have,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think is like the biggest thing they have? Like what type of document do they think they have?
The most of?
Yeah.
That's
just-
a great question.
Like
Yeah.
if there's 100,000 pages on the table.
I would think a lot of them are narratives. Like I'm thinking like there's the Bible and different scriptures within the Bible have the most copies.
And this is like there's
Then it's like the
not the
Odyssey
most
or the
copied,
Iliad.
like unique information,
Oh.
right? So the Bible can only be there once,
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Okay.
right? But there's 100,000
interesting.
pages on the table.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Tax returns.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The
It's
records.
financial data.
Oh.
Oh, I see
Because
what you're saying.
everybody wants their money.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff, and I don't
That's
know,
so
like
interesting.
and it's not really the most fun things, but like if you know, they have census data going back
Yeah.
several
Yeah,
thousand
yeah, yeah.
years, and you know, there's really funny.
Wild
There's
too that's the thought of all people in all history. That
well,
we gotta
yeah.
write this down.
I mean,
We have
or
to document
you know,
this.
receipts
Yeah.
or
Yeah, uh-huh.
shipping orders
Yeah.
or you know, how many people are in this town? How many head of cattle do they have? How many?
Right.
How much can we tax
Yeah,
them? Essentially, is the
Yeah.
question they're trying to ask.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It is wild.
Right. But with that, historians, what they do is they take that data and then they write out a story, a narrative to flourish that out. Right? What kind of industries are going on? How many people are there? Are there more? Is it mostly young people? Is it mostly old people? Is there, the numbers went down. What happened? Oh, there was a drought. Because then they combine it
Yeah.
with
Right. Other
you know,
records.
anthropology and
So
archaeology,
interesting.
and
Yeah.
now it's, oh yeah, actually we can look at the rings on this tree. They're smaller this year. There was less water for these 5 years.
Wow.
There was a drought.
That's
That's why the
wild.
population went
That's
down.
wild.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, that's even when you look at stuff like The Chosen or Son of Egypt or, I don't know, any of these stories, or even Troy.
Yeah.
Right? Like all of these, even a lot of our modern movies and pop culture and stuff like that, it's usually working off of very small information
Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right.
to
Yeah.
provide an experience that, at least in movies, right? Like there's a lot going on here
Yeah.
when the source material is like, oh, it's 5 pages long,
Right.
right?
Okay. Yeah. Dang.
Yeah. That's
Well-
super interesting.
We have another question for you.
Okay.
Probably our final question,
All right.
unless it sparks more questions, which I
Okay.
reserve the right to hold that. What would you say is your peak of leadership when you would say, like, I've reached my peak as a leader? Like, you personally, Benjamin.
Oh man, I don't think I could answer that question, because I don't think I'm there yet.
Well, yeah, but like, looking forward.
And you can't just say the top.
You can't just say, I made
Okay.
it to the bop to the top.
Bop
That's
to
what,
the top.
you can't say that.
Yeah, I don't think it would be something like a you know, CEO or something like that,
Right.
or you know, being on a Forbes list or anything like that. You know, I don't think
Yeah.
I'm that impressive, and someday I really hope to be a dad. So if I grow up, if I get kids and they grow up and you know they're out of the nest and everything and they're doing well, like that's the peak.
Oh, yeah.
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 So
Like something that you care about so deeply and
Yeah.
have like invested actually your life.
Yeah.
in. That's interesting.
And
yeah.
is like the most intimate leadership role you will ever be in.
Yeah, for real.
yeah, I mean, changing diapers, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. That just, it blows my mind every time. All my friends are having kids now. And it's weird. It's really weird. Like, they go from, like, I held them,
Mm.
and then they're walking.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the weird, I it sounds dumb, but I'm like,
Yeah.
it is the weirdest feeling ever. Like, I'm like, I don't, and the parents, the funny part is like being the friend, the parents are just like completely engulfed, obviously. They're
Yeah.
like totally invested, whatever. They're like, oh, she's getting so big, and you're like, yeah. But it, like, as a friend watching it and seeing intervals, I'm like, that's wild. Like, that's kind of crazy.
That is
Yeah.
crazy.
That thing couldn't do anything unless I picked it up, and now it's moving. Like, you know what I mean? And they
Yeah.
have personality. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
wild to me. I'm like, to invest in another human's life, they're like dependent on you.
Yeah.
And your whole job is this passing of leadership of teaching them and growing them, and that's wild to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a parent, obviously. Obviously, I think it's weird, but I mean, it's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing.
I don't
but-
think I have any close friends that have kids yet.
Okay, yeah.
And I kind of want them to, because I'm like,
You're
look,
like,
I
"Hurry up,
just
guys."
want to, show up with gifts.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's
right?
fun.
I want to be the
It's very
I'm gonna be fun Uncle Ben.
Yeah, literally.
That's awesome.
I am fun aunt.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a really good fun aunt, I would like to
So-
say. Actually, I don't know if you guys
And
would
then
say
there's
that.
a lot of like,
Put it in the comments below. All my friends that are married and have kids.
there's a lot of
Out
like,
her.
hey,
Out me.
there's a lot of like, hey, God, you know,
Yeah.
are you good? What's going on there?
Yeah, yeah. That's funny.
Hey.
I would love to. I'm totally pivoting pretty hard from this, but I would love to end on, for all the leaders in the chat, or the people who want to be leaders
The
in the
leaders
chat.
in the chat.
What are some like up to 3 points that you would give them to like, hey, if you want to be a constructive, healthy leader, these are some things you should think about.
Only 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that you said questions, like things to think about, no way to frame it. That's helpful.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, that's leading, right?
Figure-
Here's a perspective, taking a run.
Dang.
I'm trying to think about what all we talked about. Figure out what you care about,
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
because that's where you're going to naturally want to lead. Figure out what your style is,
Yeah.
because right, like I've tried different styles. I've tried the bulldog. I've tried hands off delegator. I've tried hands on. I've tried the cheerleader. You know,
Go team.
you know,
Yeah.
I've tried it all, and like
Yeah.
I have a pretty good idea of like where I'm best,
Mm-hmm.
but also depending on the situation, I'm very flexible.
Yeah.
And then third, just be real.
Just be real, man. Yeah.
Like don't the thing about leadership is that you have to be really vulnerable
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
And so you gotta, whatever hard shell you got on right now, you gotta take it off. You gotta get out. And you're going to fail.
Yeah.
And go into it knowing you're going to and being excited for it. Because
Yeah.
you're
That's
gonna
good.
come out of it being a stronger, better person.
True.
So
True.
yeah. So what the 3 was: find out what you care about.
Yeah. Style.
What's your style?
Vulnerability.
Yeah.
Be real, yo.
Be real. Be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be an actual human being,
Right.
because you're not perfect.
Right. Not Batman.
You're
No,
not
I'm
not
Batman.
Batman.
Don't be Batman.
Batman's got a lot of flaws.
Batman does have a lot of flaws.
And that's why we
He
love
is-
him.
Yeah. That's
Yeah. That's why
Honestly.
we love him.
honestly.
It's true.
Honest, I
Batman,
like
if
the
you're
new
out there.
Batman with Robert Pattinson.
He's
I really liked
good.
it.
It's
It was
good.
good.
It was a good one.
objectively good.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
on that note, Ben, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for
for
having me,
coming.
y'all.
This was really cool.
This was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Excited to go
That's-
be a leader now.
Oh, okay.
I feel I like
You're a
all
leader
my
to me.
hate fire is
Aw.
oh,
You're a leader to me.
Both of y'all are. Absolutely.
that was sweet.
Aw.
Oh, y'all both get up on stage.
Well,
And
Okay,
sing your
well.
little songs.
that's true. We do physically.
Both of y'all get up on your stage and you sing your little song.
Yep. I
That's what we've
am
been doing.
a show monkey.
That's what we're here for.
Show
That's
monkey
all
for
that we're good
Jesus.
for. Yeah, you know.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, but really, thanks Ben for being here.
Yeah,
and
no
it was
problem,
really
y'all.
fun.
Yeah. That's
this has
been
been better than Bookstacks.
You should have joined in.